Hey guys, welcome to the Money Mix podcast number 19. Thank you guys for joining us again, and we're going to get into it right away. Um, Joe Biden being impeached by the Republicans. Basically, they are accusing of Joe Biden of profiting from his son's business dealings while serving as a vice president between 2009 and 2017. So now the question I have for you, Stan, is: do you think that this is in any way going to affect the economy in any way? Like
Right.
actual of the president again going from uh, Trump to now Biden, both are in the process of basically being impeached.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because you have a former president who wants to run again, and then you have, the incumbent who obviously also wants to run. So you have, two people who are in the same or similar situation that they want to run for president, and yeah, that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that unfolds. But if the impeachment actually proceeds, I mean, it could have an effect on the economy. Obviously, we don't know yet. The government's spending a lot of money, and maybe this could be a tipping point. How long is it going to last? What publicity is it going to receive? There is a chance that something like this will potentially have a negative effect on the stock market. I mean, not necessarily a tremendous one, but some news article could come out and you know, uh, have the stock market maybe go down for a day or something, and then recover back up. I don't,
Yeah,
re- I don't really see it as too much of a big deal. So.
right. I feel like this actually won't have almost any effect. I think that because we saw with Donald Trump being impeached twice and all the stuff that happened to him as president, our economy seemed like it was actually going up, if anything, during
Right.
that time.
Right.
So I
That's the thing.
don't see
But
I
see,
don't
but
s-
let
yeah,
me
go ahead.
let me let me stop you for 1 second. But see, that's the thing. During Donald Trump, it seemed like the economy was on the rise, and now with Biden taking over, it seems like the economy is going back down. So whatever is the trend, maybe that's what might happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're basically saying kind of what I mean, like that. I don't think them being impeached or not impeached has anything to do with it. I think it's the things that they do, and like, so okay, so you have Biden, who obviously, whether it's talking about COVID, whether it's the Ukraine war, whether it's whatever, where we're spending our money, we're kind of like increasing our inflation, and because of that, you see the economy going down, and obviously Trump didn't have to deal with that, at least nowhere near to the same degree. So you have both of those sides, and I think that's the reason why we saw the economy on one side going up and the other side, like now, the economy is going down, unfortunately.
Right.
So I just don't feel like any of this stuff really affects people in terms of their spending or their security or whatever. They
But
might
just
like or hate Biden,
yeah.
but
But
nothing really affected.
but I almost feel like it's how the media is going to portray it, right? If they're going to come down harshly on it and say, look, we have a president again, you know, we have an impeachment process happening, the economy is not doing too well, the food prices are up, gasoline prices are up, the interest rates are up. So it could, like, with all that being cumulative, that could actually have some play in maybe somewhat of a downturn in the stock market. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I completely disagree. I just don't think that there's any effect in terms of like the president impeachments. I just don't have like, I remember when Clinton was being impeached, and I remember people like, "Oh, what's going to happen? What's the country? How's the country going to recover, and how they're going to deal with this?" It had no effect on the economy, and when Trump
Well,
was impeached, that had no effect. And I think if Biden is going to be actually impeached, it's not going to have effect on the economy whatsoever. I think all of that is just like basically has nothing almost to do with the economy. Like for whatever reason, just people don't care if the president gets impeached or not. It seems like.
Well, the thing is that during the Clinton era, I think that we had a surplus, right,
Yes.
in the government, which is unheard of today, as we are like trillions upon trillions in debt. So I think it was
I
a
think
different
to be
time.
fair, I think we were actually still in debt during that time. I think the surplus is we were actually just making more money than we were spending, so we had a surplus. But I think we were still in debt during that time. Way less, but I think we were still in debt.
That's a good question. That I'm not sure because I wasn't following, economy at that time. I was too young, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
right.
We both were too young for that at that point.
You might be absolutely right, but I don't know. Like I feel as though like um, it can't be good for Biden overall. If you look at the economy as it stands right now, we have interest rates that are over 4%, and if you want to actually borrow money, they can be anywhere from five and above, and inflation is up tremendously. Obviously, people see that in their grocery bill. They see it in their gasoline spending. So it doesn't bode well for Biden and the Democrats, in my opinion, at least. So whether he gets impeached or not, I still think that he has a uphill battle to actually win the next presidency, unless there is no candidate that could actually challenge him, right? But
Right, right. And at this point, we have, like we have, as in the country has Donald Trump and it has Biden. Those are the really two major candidates, which is kind of insane that those are the only real two candidates that we have. But um,
all
but
right,
yeah, and the thing is, like to add to your point a little bit is, yeah, in terms of basically re-election, Joe Biden is also going through his own, like obviously Trump is going through his stuff, and Joe Biden, like today, we had Hunter Biden was indicted on firearm charges,
so that's another
and
negative.
yeah, that adds to the whole pot of like, okay, so you have the sitting president who's could be potentially indicted. His son is basically being indicted at the moment right now. You have the person who's running against him who has been indicted and potentially facing jail time. It's like these are our top two men that we could get for the job.
Yeah,
These are
I'm
the top, like really, like this is where we are. And
right.
but the weird thing is, I again just going back to like finance side, this doesn't have an effect on the economy. It's weird, but it just
I
doesn't.
think I really do think that it should have some effect on the economy, but I think there are a lot of problems that we already have that are not necessarily caused by the president, but the president is not doing anything about it. You know what I mean? It's like, uh, well, what can the president really do when, the Federal Reserve pretty much runs the interest rates and the printing of the money? I mean, they're in charge of that process, right? So, I mean, the president can actually, talk to the Fed chair and say, "Listen, I don't agree with you on that," and maybe because of that, the people of the country are like, "Listen, we're not for increasing any more interest rates because look what it's doing to our economy. We already had some banks fail, and they were the high tier." Banks, not the lower tier banks that serve consumers, right? So if you continue to raise interest rates, then like, look, we already have a pretty significant unemployment rate, which obviously is not on paper, but in reality, like how many high quality jobs are there out there? You know what I mean? Like you can find a regular service job that pays you maybe a little bit above minimum wage, but I mean, what about like the higher tier jobs? The IT industry is down, quite a bit, and it produces, you know, a lot of high tier jobs. So I mean, like, I don't know. I think people need to step in because the president is not going to step in and help you. That's pretty much.
No, but the thing is, I feel like the president's job is like you at least hope that they're gonna hire either the right people or they themselves would make sure that we're not leaking money everywhere. That's basically the idea. But in the last two presidents, it's very hard to make an argument that either of them were, good spenders. And right now, we have a president who's sitting there, who's spending money in a war that we honestly could have been avoided by all parties. By the way, not only U.S. but by all parties. Uh,
Right.
and we're spending a ridiculous amount of money there. We're spending money on fixing all of the stuff that are breaking currently with natural disasters.
Well, I mean, like when you really think about it, the spending of the war in Ukraine, where the United States is not actually physically participating, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, how is that even like allowed? Like nobody asked me if I was okay with handing over money to a foreign government that's gonna, purchase whatever they're gonna purchase in order to fight this war. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
well,
why?
yeah. But remember. I just don't want to put it on Biden only because
No,
technically, every war or every engagement is technically supposed to in the United States. There's everybody is supposed to go through the Senate. You can't like a president can't just do any of this stuff. But because there's wiggle room, they kind of like, oh, it's a engagement. It's not a war. It's a it's help to our allies. It's like it's things that basically wiggle out so that the president can make like a unilateral decision about spending billions and billions of tax money without anyone
yeah,
going, is this okay or not? It's just,
yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, I mean, like, yeah. I don't know what kind of democracy we're living in, but it's just a elite democracy where they decide everything for us, and we just have to pretty much pay taxes because, I mean, the taxes are increasing, everything's increasing. I mean, up until what point? The question is, up until what point will the prices have to go up to till everybody just goes broke? You know what I mean? Like I said, like the high end jobs are going away, and go ahead, find a low end job, but that low end job is not gonna be able to help you sustain the type of lifestyle that you're living even now. So I mean, like, up until what point are we paying like most of our money towards taxes and expenses? You know what I mean? I think.
well, like what
Yeah,
sucks is we do have a nation where we're very much like we're okay with increasing taxes, even though we're already paying lots of taxes. We're okay with
yeah,
increasing taxes for the idea that hey, now things will be better. And unfortunately,
that makes sense.
it doesn't really change, and we just constantly hear about how increasing taxes are really going to help us out.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
like that's like saying that. Listen, hey, fat kid, I'll give you more sugar, and you'll feel better. That's pretty much like what that is. It just
okay,
doesn't. Well, it doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, that's pretty
right?
much like, well, if you pay more money, then your lifestyle is going to improve. Ah, wait a second. How does that work? You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It hurts you more and more, and then like you're at a point where, oh shit, I can't afford gas. So what am I gonna do now? Well, that like, that could be reality, you know, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
expensive.
Well, everything is expensive, and the thing is, uh, I feel like with our presidents, it seems like they're more focused on reelection than they are with either. By the way, either, I'm not talking about one party in particular, but either party seem like they're more focused on reelection than they are about the state of economy, state about where people are, how inflation is affecting them. Because I
I
understand, like the right is really pushing for, hey, inflation is bad. Look, inflation is bad. But then I still don't hear an answer from them what should be done. Like the general answer, of course, is like stop spending. But with Republicans, if they come into office, they're going to spend as well. So what are you going to do to offset that so inflation doesn't continue rising? It's just, I don't know. I feel like neither of them are giving answers. They're all just kind
well,
of want to say whatever we
well,
want to hear.
I know the answer to that question. One
Okay.
one word. It's called a reset. That's
Oh,
all.
okay. They're
Yeah,
they're about to.
that's it. That's all it is. That's what's going to happen. They're going to reset the economy. That's all it is. So
Yeah, well, okay, I don't necessarily go on that like idea with you, but yeah, I mean,
well, there's no
something definitely needs to be done because like it just seems like the direction we're going to, economy wise at least, is the
well.
wrong direction at this point,
Well,
and
okay,
yeah,
before we move on to the next topic, the thing is that there's no other choice but to reset the money. If you don't reset the money, then we continue to go downhill, and there really is no other solution because the inflation is just going to go out of control. And the other thing I want to mention was that why is that going to happen, right? Because China and Russia already said that they're not going to use the US dollar to buy oil with anymore. I mean, that's pretty big. And once other countries start doing that, well, the US dollar is no longer going to be the reserve currency. And once it stops being the reserve currency, then it's trouble. It's real trouble because remember, food and um, oil by most country is bought using U.S. dollars. So if they're no longer going to buy the U.S. dollars, guess what's going to happen? All those dollars that they have, they're going to come back here, and it will be hyperinflation. So they don't want hyperinflation, so they're going to have to uh, reset the currency.
yeah. I see what you're saying. I don't agree to it. I feel like, um, I
Okay.
understand, I understand what you're saying about Russia and China, but I think you might have maybe said it like backwards though, because well, like Russia definitely isn't buying oil. They sell oil. So meaning, I think that you meant they're only
So
gonna accept
yes, yes,
non-dollars, not
yes. That
not
that
aid.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I didn't say it correctly. Yes, they're going to accept
Mhm.
non-U.S. dollars.
Yeah,
To
but with Russia, it's definitely an unavoidable thing. They have to do that. And with China, obviously China, like relation between China and US isn't all that good. So I can understand them going in a different direction. I feel like the US dollar is really ingrained at the moment all around the world. And I think that there's still way more certainty with them than it is with dealing with China and dealing with Russia. But don't get me wrong, is that going to have an effect on the U.S. economy? Probably. I just don't think
yeah.
it's going to be a flip the board upside down and start all over kind of thing. But I think that's kind of like where we stand. I think we're just seeing a different perspective of the same thing. Anywho, let's move on to our next topic, which is a interesting one. It's Elon Musk and his Starlink. So basically, what happened was, if you don't know, recently, SpaceX founder Elon Musk refused to allow Ukraine to use Starlink internet services to launch a surprise attack on Russian forces in Crimea, and has and basically people are questioning whether the U.S. military should question or maybe potentially remove the contracts from that they have with them, and if they should work with Elon Musk in the first place. Um, U.S. doesn't have an alternative to this. Ukraine obviously doesn't have an alternative to this. This is the only option they currently have. Now, let me ask you: do you think now that this has happened, do you think that this is in any way going to affect Elon Musk, his companies, the way that people would view this, or do you think that this is just a whatever thing and then just move
Uh,
on?
of course. I mean, come on. If there's news and there's negative news about anything, then of course it's gonna affect Elon Musk and his company, right? Or companies,
Okay.
because there are people on both sides of the spectrum, and that's what it's all about. You have two sides, and one side cries more than the other side, and whichever one cries more and louder, which is usually the Democratic side, then the people on the left will be anti Elon Musk, right? Well, the consequences don't matter, right? So it's like, well, Putin is bad, and Ukraine and I forget what the president name is at the moment of Ukraine. Uh, can you help me out, or you forgot his
Zelensky?
Zelensky? There you go.
Yeah, no, I was trying to come. No, I was trying to
Yeah,
actually run into.
Zelensky. He's good and Putin is bad, right? So you should help us out by murdering Russian soldiers. But but then you like ask them a question: are you against like killing people? Yeah, of course I'm against killing people, but those people are okay to be killed. That's like, what are
Right.
you talking about? Like,
Well,
you make no sense whatsoever, and that is the hypocrisy of idiocracy. You know what I mean? Like, they're hypocrites, but they're like I don't want to even say the word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
mhm.
Um, it's just really, really stupid. So it's okay to kill one set of people, but not okay to kill the other set of people. And even though the soldiers are technically like not um like making their own decisions to go to war. It's like Putin is making them go to war, Zelensky's making his army go to war, but then you choose a side because you hate one guy and you like the other guy, but both sides are getting killed. And I mean, I don't know, it's just it's a
Um,
weird
ju-
situation.
okay, just to give a perspective from Elon Musk, because I feel like there's a perspective that's only going around, and that is from Ukraine side, and there's validity to what they're saying, and but I feel like there's no one even making a point of what Elon Musk is saying, except Elon Musk, and it and I just want to give okay, so like he built Starlink, at least from what he says. I can't know what he believes, but at least the things that he says, he built Starlinks to help people all around the world because you could have internet wherever you need. It means you have communication. You can find news wherever you live. Doesn't matter how remote because you get internet from a satellite. So his idea was to help everyone. That this was supposed to be a help. Now, when the whole thing started in Ukraine, he offered the service free for there. He put the satellites. Everybody was like, "Ah, this is really great. Thank you so much." And he went like, "Hey, I understand there's emergency things. Please use this. You have free reign. Go for it." And of course, like everything else in government, you first go, "Oh, this is really nice. Oh, look at this. People are using it." And then you go, "Well, how can we use this militarily?" And then it became, instead of just defend, it became, well, we could use it to attack. And that's where he doesn't want to be part of it. He doesn't want to be part of potentially killing people. Like it's one thing to defend yourself versus somebody and using his software, but it's another thing to use it to kill. And this was supposed to be a surprise attack
Right,
on the Russian, and technically now considered Crimea is considered, you know,
Russia.
Russian soil. So
Yeah.
the idea is like he doesn't want to be part of killing people, and that's his point of view. That's the reason why he turned it off. The idea is making it seem like you're killing Ukrainians by doing this, and it's one of those things like he doesn't want his stuff used to kill people. If you want to use stuff to kill people, use something else. That's basically what he's saying. And if you don't have it, he's like, I don't want to provide that. I completely, I genuinely completely understand. From my perspective, I'm like, if I build something, it doesn't matter what it is, and if I go, I don't want you to kill anybody with it, but you're like, No, but come on, just a little bit.
Just one
I'm
time.
like, no, no, yeah, exactly. One time, little bit, just a little death, just a little tiny death. No, I'm like, I don't want that to be used. I like remember, he's not a like Elon Musk is not a warrior. He's not a soldier. He's not somebody who's a gung ho about killing people. He's a nerd pacifist. And here you're going like, wait, are you saying you're against us committing, like killing potentially hundreds, if not thousands of people in Crimea? Come on. It's like he's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what that's not what I want. And I again, for me, it's really hard for anyone to argue that, but I'm sure people do, and people will.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think this, in at least in the United States, it does hurt him, just because, like,
Well, with one party, I would argue, with one party.
well, yeah, yeah, with one party, and like I don't know who mostly buys his cars, but I would assume
I
it's on the left side. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
would
making
agree.
that
I would
assumption.
agree with that. I would think it's probably little by little changing though, just because of how the left now sees Elon Musk versus how the right sees
Correct.
Elon Musk.
But that's what I'm
But
saying.
but I would still argue that the majority of people that buy it are people on the left. At least
Yeah.
that's what I would argue.
So that's what I'm saying. And then, so in the United States, I think it will hurt him a little bit, and but maybe that's the reason why they keep on dropping the prices of the cars.
Well, he did the thing during COVID. He really the prices all went up by a pretty drastic amount, and
Okay.
he's been lowering it and lowering and lowering it. And um, I
Yeah.
don't know if that was planned on his part to go like, hey, let's make it a premium and then lower the prices, and I could sell a lot of these cars. I don't know. I don't know if this was forethought or if this was just knee-jerk reaction on his part.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, there's a potential that he might have to lower the prices more. But I mean, I don't know. But either way, I think that when you go political, and either way you look at it, whether he wanted to or he didn't want to, this is a political statement. That you can't use my Starlink for these type of activities because that's how it's being reported, and the fact that he gave them access, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, yeah, it's not a good.
Well, he basically gave it access to them for free for
Yeah,
I think for like 6 months or something like that. And I think that
yeah,
they were critiquing him for something during that time. So he said, you know what? I shouldn't be paying for this out of my own pocket because at least what he says, it takes money to, I guess, to do that or whatever, and to like to set it up a certain way and keep it that way and whatever. And so he said, like, okay, well then you have to pay. And I think the government started then paying Elon Musk to have the satellites there and specifically
oh,
to
well, there
work
you
there.
go. I mean, so when you have the government involved in it, then it's like you're almost obligated for them to use it, and then when you say no, you're not going to use it because you're murdering people.
But right. But see,
you know
that's the thing. But that's the thing. If this was like, let's say, your local internet provider, right? And let's say you go like, hey, we're gonna use it to potentially kill thousands of people. You think Spectrum is gonna be like, yeah, go for it. We don't care. It's like, no, they're like, wait. You're gonna use yeah, we're gonna, under the radar, we're gonna use your stuff to communicate so that we could kill these people. It's
yeah.
like I could see them going like, no, I don't think we want to be part of that. That doesn't look very good for us.
But I
Yeah.
think what people need to realize is that just because you think somebody's the enemy and this and that, I mean, that's just in your brain. And these some of these people, they don't even have a choice, right? I mean, they're forced into the army.
Yeah.
In Russia, I think in Russia and Ukraine, it's mandatory, to actually go into the army, and you can't say no, or else you're going to be jailed. And I think that's what people need to understand, that there's a real issue, and that in the United States it's voluntary, right? So
I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but I don't. It definitely was the case before, but I'm not sure if both Ukraine and Russia had a mandatory, like like when you're 18, you have to go into the army. I don't know if they still had that. I
I,
think they might have like
well,
removed that.
okay, Ukraine definitely has that now.
Well, no, okay. I'm not saying when they're at war. Yes, yes. I'm saying before the
Right.
war started there, I don't think either of them had a mandatory draft. I really don't.
Not draft. Man,
Or whatever you want, a mandatory enlistment or what or whatever it is.
military service.
Yeah.
Let me
I
see.
don't. Yeah. Okay, go for it.
From January 1st, 2008, as of 2021, all male citizens aged 18 to 20 are subject to conscription for 1 year.
What country is that?
Well, I mean, I said Russia. Yeah, it's Russia. Yeah.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. Okay,
Yeah.
so in
So,
Russia had a 1 year
yeah.
script.
So,
Oh,
so if
interesting. I did
you're,
not know that.
I assumed it because before that was the case. But so anywhere from 18 to 27, you have to serve at least 1 year. So
Interesting. Okay. I thought they were well, I mean, I knew they removed it, but I guess they brought it back.
yeah. So, yet again, like people don't know that that's the case. It's not voluntary like it is here. So,
Sure, but it's even given that, it's the thing about like going to war for something that like I don't know what the benefit however this war ends, however it ends. I don't know if the benefit of let's say however you want to define that, let's say Ukraine wins. Let's say the best case scenario, Ukraine wins, Russia says no more, we've lost too much, we don't want to lose anymore. They go back. I don't know if Ukraine can like come out of this and go like, all right, see, we're good now. It's like
yeah,
it's too many lives lost.
yeah.
The country is mostly destroyed aside from Kiev. You like you're
Well,
talking about hundreds of thousands already of Ukrainians died, if not, I'm sure it might be even more than that. And by then the war probably we're talking about at least a million or two. Um,
yeah.
I don't know how a country like that will ever go, this was worth it. Whatever, like meaning even if they win, I don't know if it's like, you know what, we're glad we did this. Because and at the same time, I'm sure, in Russia, a lot of people don't think the war is worth it. I'm sure aside from Putin, most of the people don't want their loved ones to be
Well,
there.
yet
Like,
again, like with any country, there's usually at least two sides. One side is for it, another side is against it. So I wouldn't be surprised, that the half that are for it, are with the president, then the other half that are not for it are against them. So
do
I
you
mean,
think? Okay, let me
that's
ask you
what
this.
it is.
Do
Yeah.
you think? I mean, we're sort of moving away from our original, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Do you think that if United States wasn't backing Ukraine, do you think Zelensky and Ukrainians would have still went ahead with what they're doing now?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't really think that they're doing much per se. You know what I mean? In the
Well,
first,
I mean, they are fighting, they are killing. It's just obviously they're dying as well.
right. I just have a different perspective on the war. I don't think we're getting all the information about the war. I don't think it's being fought everywhere. It's being fought like
No,
on the
it
eastern
it
border of
feels sorry,
Russia.
just to cut you off like really quick there. I just want to mention that to me it feels like this war is sort of like, and by the way, this is not the only war that's like this, but this one in particular, you see how you have almost like what seems like pawns, and then you have the king. So meaning
Yeah.
Zelensky isn't attacking Putin, and Putin isn't attacking Zelensky. And what you have instead is you have these regions where you're putting these basically soldiers pawns on both sides, and they're just going at each other while both of them are talking about their own issues. They're traveling all around the world, they're talking to people, they're shaking hands. And I'm just like, you know what, it would be so much better if both of you take guns, go in the middle of
Yeah.
anywhere you want, shoot each other, who comes out winner, go, all right, cool, all right, we're done. It
Never
just
happens.
of course, but I'm saying like that's like it's insane to me that like they're really genuinely treating people's lives like nothing. It's like you have like both sides, by the way, lost already hundreds of thousands of people, like hundreds of thousands. We're not talking about like 10 or 20 people. Like they sometimes report like, hey, look, there was an attack on this area and 150 people died. It's like, yeah, but now we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people died on both sides. It's like, for what? For Like,
Yeah.
what's the benefit for either country? And just I don't know. Whenever I hear about that, I'm just like, I get so frustrated that,
Well,
especially United States, we're part of this. We're literally part of what's
uh,
happening there. We're just not, using our soldiers.
yeah, I don't want to use we as in we.
I understand. I understand. You don't like that. You don't like to be considered part of
No,
this. I understand.
I don't want to be considered part of this. Aside from the fact that it's my country,
No, I
uh,
get it. I get it. I get it. You like basically this is not what you would vote for. This is not something that you would
it-
want, but
and I
but
don't
it
think,
is happening. So
yeah, and I don't think most people would want to vote for something like that. But
actually, that's a good question. Do you think that if America had a vote, if we wanted to,
mm,
uh, before this started, okay? So
yeah,
let's say this is the thing. So on the day Russia's bringing the troops into Ukraine, okay, the day there's nothing fired and nothing's happening. In the United States, Biden goes, all right, we need a vote. And he goes like, we're going to have a quick vote. I want to know if the people want us to defend one of our allies, like financially or any other way. Do you think that if people got a vote at that time, do you think that it would pass with we should defend them monetarily or otherwise, or do you think the vote would fail, meaning under 50% would vote to not?
it's a really good question. I mean, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't want to see something like that, but yet again, I mean, if that was the case, then I really do think that they probably would try to convince people
Well,
otherwise.
let's say, but
I
let's say,
think
but
it
let's say,
would
but let's
be,
say, let's not like no convincing. They just lay it out. This is what's happening right now in Ukraine. They're one of our allies. Yes, they're not in NATO or anything, but they're one of our allies. They are
yeah.
more leaning Western. Blah blah. Just the facts. This is this is the current situation. Should United States, obviously dealing with another nuclear power in Russia, should we in any way get into this right now?
I
And
mean, if it was basically laid out like that with
yes.
not showing like people being blown up and
No, no,
all
no, no, no. Remember,
that,
nothing happened yet. No, no, no. I'm saying nothing happened at that point. I'm saying
oh,
on the day of where Russia just put in
I
the troops. Remember, like the first day where it was just troops. They were just there waiting. They wanted to intimidate, kind
I
of what they did in Georgia, where they just put like Putin put troops in there, and Georgian president was, okay, all right, fine, I'll sign your treaty.
right, right, right. I mean, I think it can go either way. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a possibility, but but obviously eventually, with the fact that we're, so high in debt and all this, and everything keeps on rising in prices, and them blaming it on Russia. I mean, how are you going to blame it
I
on Russia in a sense? Like
yeah.
you're pretty much saying that, well, Russia, uh, which is an independent country, decided to start a war with another independent country, which is Ukraine, and it's their fault that we have to step in and give billions of dollars. That doesn't make sense, right? So then like don't step in, don't give billions of dollars. It's not their fault. It's your fault because you're the one who is providing the aid, and you're killing the US. It's your fault. You can't say, well, it's Russia. Okay, so if tomorrow Nigeria attacks another country, then you're going to say, well, it's Nigerians' fault that we have to give them $1 trillion.
Well,
It's like
well,
not
Well,
them,
the whole
somebody
thing,
else.
the whole thing with Russia became a thing, and ever since Donald Trump became president, it became everything bad became sort
Yeah.
of, oh, this is Russia, this is what Russia's doing, and what sucks is that because it was so overused that now I don't know what Russia is doing or Russia isn't doing, or what they did, what they didn't do, because everything was blamed on Russia, like literally everything. And I just kind of like, I'm like, I don't like, I'm sure that they did something, but what? I don't know. I don't know if, anyway, it just became everything Russia, 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 and everything bad is Russia. I remember even when Biden was being asked in terms of he was having debate with Donald Trump, and the whole Hunter Biden laptop came up in conversation, and he was asked, "Hey, do you know about this? Is this?" And he said on the stage, he said, "This is a Russian hoax. This is not real. It's not true." And I just remember listening to like, oh, okay, all right, okay, so maybe it is, maybe it's all fake. And then obviously now we know that that wasn't fake and that wasn't true. That had nothing to do with Russia. But
Right.
but it is
Right.
what it is.
It's, but it definitely, going back to the whole Elon Musk and Starlink, even when you're not trying to be political, he's going to be put into these situations because of his cars and his satellites and,
Yeah,
even solar panels that he has. He's going to be put into these situations where he's going to have the business decision to make, which will have an outcome of whether it's going to work out for him or not.
right.
Because yet again, either you're on one side or you're usually on the other side, and yeah, that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
So
Well, all right. I think we kind of like talked about that now, but let's move on to a more fun topic instead of like a downer topic like this, which is the NBA new rules for load management. So, if you don't know what load management is in NBA, it's basically when you have a star player and you don't want to put too many games on him before, like, say, the playoffs. They started calling that load management, where they would go like, hey, there's 2 games in a row coming up on the road. Let's have him only play one of them. And then they started doing that more and more and more often. And it got to a point where it like a lot of teams started doing that, where they just stopped playing their big players just to make sure that they'll be ready for the playoffs. And now the NBA went like, hey, look, our ratings are down. Our because people don't watch when the main star doesn't play. People just turn the channel. If the main star doesn't play, people bet differently. If the main star doesn't play, less people go to the stadium to watch the game. So now they made a rule, or a bunch of rules, basically making it mandatory that you, like, without going into too many details, you basically have to play your players. You can't just let them sit out, and there will be only small exceptions for if a player is 35 and over, and in only certain cases where you could allow them to sit out more. Um, so what do you think of this? Do you think that this is a good rule, or do you think it's an unfair thing? Punishing. Oh, by the way, I should mention there is a penalty that starts off from, like, I think, like around 100,000, then it goes to 250,000, and then jumps all the way up to $1 million every time you don't follow these rules, and it'll
yeah.
continue to be $1 million every time you don't
It's,
follow them.
unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, in one way, you're saying that, look, you own the team, do whatever you want, right? But then on the other side, you're saying, listen, we have to make these rules because if we don't make these rules, then, the whole NBA suffers. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in the sense that, like, as a owner, as a coach, you don't have the freedom anymore as you used to. And for me, I think freedom is really the number one aspect of life, right?
Right,
So
but hold on, but I do want to stop you. Like,
I didn't finish.
I don't think it's the, like, I personally don't think it's has anything to do with actual freedom, because remember, the NBA basically sets the rules and the teams have to follow those rules. That's basically what it was. I think that this is more like uh play teams and players started abusing this. And by the way, I actually don't even think it's more teams. I actually think it's more the players. They saw that they could not play and still get max dollar, like, meaning it's not like they get paid less if they don't play. They get paid exactly the same amount. And I promise you this, by the way, if you don't think that that's the case, if if the NBA said, you know what, we're not going to put any new rules, but if the player doesn't play, he doesn't get paid for that game, meaning the
Yeah,
millions upon millions of dollars. You
yeah.
want to bet that we see everyone play? There's all of a sudden load management won't exist anymore. But they didn't go that route. They went like,
They
hey,
should. They should.
we'll be the bad guys. Go for it.
Well, what I meant by that is like a double-edged sword because, in a sense, like, okay, you came up with a good rule, right? And I agree with that. Like, uh, they're listen, if they don't play, then they shouldn't get paid. But that's not. how they're doing things, right?
Right.
They should be doing it that way because that's how employees usually are, right?
Right.
If you're an employee, then if you don't show up for that day, you have a few like sick days, whatever, fine, that's fine, right? But if you're making it a habit, but technically they're not sick, they just don't want to play. So then
Yeah.
that doesn't count as a sick day. So if you don't actually play, then you shouldn't get paid. So I completely agree with that. But the way that they're in a sense making it seem like, look, this is the rule, nothing you can do about it. This is the way it is. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because then they can come out with other rules as
But
well.
I mean, but I mean, like, I'm not like usually a defender of the NBA and what the rules it have, but I mean that's always been the case. I mean, the NBA is the league, the league itself, and they make the rules in terms of how players get paid when they increase
Yeah,
them. Like, I mean,
yeah.
you don't deal with the team, you deal with the NBA, and the NBA sets the how things are supposed to be. So I don't like you're kind of saying, well, freedom, but I'm like, I don't know if this is a freedom thing. This is like the NBA has certain rules. The NBA has rules as
Well, what I
like through
mean,
etiquette as well, and I
well,
don't.
what I mean by that is, before, the coach would decide who plays and who doesn't play.
Yeah, but the coach would never say you don't play because it's 2 games in a row. Sit down. Like
I,
like Michael Jordan never had to deal with that. Larry Bird
I
never deal with that. Magic Johnson never deal with that.
No, no, I completely agree with you, and I like that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's a double-edged sword because what if, the coach wants to decide, listen, I don't want for him to play today because of this. You know what I mean? Whatever is on his mind, he doesn't want for him to play that day. Well, now technically, you can't do that, right? I mean, the player has to play and
But what's the reason though? Because I mean, again, if somebody's injured, then it's yes. But if
not
the only thing the coach is going like, I just want him to be fresh for the following game.
exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Exactly.
you don't have the right
All right.
to set out your main
But
player.
see, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like a double-edged sword because when you own something, when you're in charge of something, you can make that decision. Right? I'm just saying
Within the rules of the association that
that's what I'm
you're
saying.
in.
That's
Right.
what
No, but I'm saying,
that's
but
what I'm
that literally has been the same. Like it almost sounds like you're saying this as a new thing, but it's not. Like since literally any team was around and the association was around,
right.
like you literally had rules the association provided, and you had to go with it. The fact that you're saying, well, now they have to follow these rules, they always have to follow rules. I mean, they might be different, they might have changed,
Yeah, but
but there are always rules around.
yeah, of course there are always rules. But what I'm trying to say is when you tell somebody you can't do something, they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh shit, I can't do this." You know what I mean? Like they never thought about it before, but now they're like, "Okay, well I can't do it, but if I wanted to do it, you know what I mean? It's not in my power to do so." I'm just saying it's just like it's a double-edged sword. I think it's a good what I'm trying to say is I think it's a good rule, right? But at the same time, it's like, damn, it's a rule. You know what I mean? It's like, people.
I mean, yeah, but I
You
mean,
know what?
and yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you're kind of like describing that rules suck in general because you have to follow them.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, but that's a general idea for any like if the
Right.
NBA said, anything else, if the NBA said you could now wear if you wanted to wear speedos while you're playing basketball,
No, no.
that's technically a thing. But I'm like, I don't, I just, I mean, yes, rules are there and they've always been there and they change them all the time and all like for me in all honesty like first I absolutely think this is a much needed thing. Too many teams started abusing this and literally not playing major healthy players who are young,
Exactly.
just not playing it. So I'm for
I
this rule, but the rule that I really want to for them to actually acknowledge that there's a problem here, and that is players who are like the top end players who are bullying their way out of contracts that they have, not contracts, but bullying themselves so to be traded. We even when they're under contract, like Harden, obviously being the number one example of this, where he's like, "Hey, I'm tired of being in Houston. I know I'm under like 4 more years on the contract. I still want to be traded. And not only do I want to be traded, I want to be traded to this specific team. I don't care what they give you for me. You have to trade me because otherwise I'm going to play really poorly. And he bullies himself out of Houston. He bullies himself when he's in on the net.